Fantastic information. And today we're going to be talking about education and what that means. And we have the honor and the privilege of having Senior Education Consultant ELDA ROJAS. Ms. ROJAS, welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm so pleased to have you with us today. It's such an honor. A little bit about Ms. ROJAS is that she is a Senior Education Consultant, having about more than 20 years of experience in the field of education. And I really think what's important to note for our viewers is that you come from a migrant family, and you have experienced education at a very high level. And we're going to have a chance to talk about how to, what an opportunity that is for our guests and our viewers who are watching. So welcome to our show today.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure for me to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love what you said. I don't know if, but when you said thanks to God, that you keep it focused on the Lord, and so we appreciate that about you. We've gotten to visit with you a couple of times in the past at different events, and you are very Christ-centered, and so we thank you for continuing to be that way, even within the field of education. So,
oh, the Lord is, my inspiration. Of course, He's the one who allows us to achieve what we have achieved, and I'm just so thankful to Him for the doors that He has opened. I live by Proverbs 3:5 every day, just trusting in Him and not leaning on our own understanding, right? And so, to me, I just feel I've been so blessed. He's been with me every step of the way, and we know that He wants the best for us, right?
That's right.
Jeremiah 29:11 is another one of my favorite verses, knowing that He wants to give us the best and to help us always to prosper.
That's awesome. Can you, and you kind of have just alluded to it, but loving the Lord with your mind, what that means to you from an education standpoint. Can you share with us today a little bit about what that means to you?
I think it's very important to always remember where God puts us. It's for a reason. He wants to grow us. He wants us to also be a voice, right? He wants to use us to be a voice in our communities. And that starts with the love that we have for Him. And we know that He can use us as we depend on Him and we trust in Him.
What I didn't say at the beginning was that you have a unique story, and I'm not sure if we have enough time to go into that today, but what I find unique about it is that you actually attended Harvard University, and it was probably not your first choice, or you had second thoughts about it, as I understand it, but you honored the Lord with the gift of your mind, and you stepped in faith down that pathway. And because of that, you have experience that I think you can talk to our viewers about, about some of the challenges that our viewers, our students, our parents might be facing as their children and their families consider higher education at different levels. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. My family, we immigrated from Mexico when I was 6 years old, and we went to live in Michigan. And there, in those years, the bilingual program was not so extensive, and so we went through immersion process. At first, it was very difficult trying to learn English, and at home we spoke Spanish. But the Lord helped us through our development. We did move to another area in Michigan where they did have bilingual education, and so we did receive assistance. And something that I also value so much is the role the church played, because the church was our extensive family, and many times when people immigrate from another country, they're not only acclimating to a new land, they're learning a new land as well. So they're learning a new system, they're learning a new culture, different ways of schooling, and so for us it was everything was new. It was such a challenge, but the church played a great role in helping us. And so, yes, I was very fortunate. I was able to pursue a degree at Harvard. It was a wonderful door the Lord opened. I know that through Him, all things are possible. It was challenging because it was not, in my family, I had not had the example of my parents studying here in the States. And so it was a very new experience for us. I married young. My husband was also a college student in the Boston area. He was studying music there. And so together we dedicated ourselves to studying and moving forward and just trusting God. And one thing I learned was, as I looked around myself, was there were other students who also were English language learners. And so I knew that the Lord had positioned me to prepare me, but also to help others along the way, as they also were trying to learn a new land.
Can you speak a little bit about how parents can encourage other parents when it comes to English language learners? You've just spoken about the student encouraging the student, but what about parents? How can they help?
There's such a wonderful opportunity for ministry, because we're told in the Great Commission, right, to go and make disciples, go throughout the nations. And here in the States, there's so many different nations represented. Like, for instance, here in Texas alone, in this region, we have over 120 languages spoken. And so there are students in every class. In Dallas ISD alone, 42% of the population are English language learners. And so for students, there's a great opportunity to reach out to others. So in regards to the parents, it's great to have the opportunity to reach out to the students, help our own children understand that it's fine to reach out, to invite them in, to help them acclimate, to help them understand the new process here in this land. And also for them to have someone to practice the English with, because many times they go to classes and they're listening, they're taking all the information in, but they also need to feel that they have a support system. Who can they practice the language with? You mentioned that your mother was learning English and content, and that's the double processing that takes place in language acquisition, where they're learning the social aspects of the language, but also the cognitive, the academic levels of a language. And it takes years to develop. The academic level takes 5 to 7 years. So what we can do with our children as parents is teach them to reach out to other students at their schools and to help them acquire the language.
It sounds like students have a real opportunity to just be a friend and to help be a cultural translator. Like you said, to kind of let them in and help maybe give some tips or this is what this means, or those nuances to the language that are not always in a textbook, but that happen conversationally. So that's a real strong tip for our parents who are watching today, to encourage their students to do that, to be a cultural translator in particular.
And absolutely, I think you alluded to it earlier, that the church family can also play that role in a big brother, big sister type of role, and parent to parent, where they can encourage each other. And I think what we see or hear is that oftentimes parents don't know what they don't know. They may be afraid to ask a question because they just don't know, and that seems this seems to help if they have touch points at home and at church. So there's this unique collaboration that the faith community brings to education.
I think we're at a great position as a church, because if we look at our numbers across the nation, in the last 30 years, the number of ELLs have tripled in our schools. And so that's about a little under a 10% representation of English language learners in our schools. In Texas, there's about 19% of the population who are learning English. Some states have larger numbers, like California. 23% of their population are English learners. And so wherever we live, we have that opportunity to meet English language learners and to minister to them, to help their families feel welcome. What happens many times is that their parents become isolated because they're new to a land and they're learning a new system themselves, and they're not familiar with the school system here. And so it's a great opportunity for parents at our churches to reach out to families and to invite them in and to help them learn a new system. The new grading policies, everything's different for them.
Well, I know we've got about 30 seconds, but I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to share some national resources for folks at home to connect with, so that they can help to know how to support English language learners, also ELLs for short.
So we're very fortunate, the land that we live in the U.S. There's a lot of resources at the national level and also the state level. And so at the schools, they have supports. They have bilingual programs or dual language programs, ESL programs. There's a lot of resources in regards to helping students learn English. Parents also can look for ESL classes so that they can acquire the English along with their students. And also for literacy development, there's vast resources available. And so don't be shy about seeking that assistance. The first place to start would be at the local school and then at the state level. At the national level through the U.S. Department of Education, there's a lot of grants available to the districts and to the states. And so there's opportunities for college readiness, literacy development, language acquisition. So I encourage parents to go to the schools and to ask for those resources and to see how they can help their students be successful.
Thank you so much. We
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate you being here. And right now, we'd like